2 years ago, we all became a part of an experiment that nobody asked for, nobody saw coming, and one that will continue to have second-order effect impacts long after. I want to be clear that the experiment isn't COVID or a pandemic. It's the result of COVID and pandemic. This experiment is about how we work and where we work, and for many people, why we work. When you look back at the Industrial Revolution, in 1784, we were just starting to build machines, and we were harnessing things like steam power. In 1870, roughly 100 years later, we had mass production and assembly lines being powered by electric energy. And this is an important part of the Industrial Revolution that impacts us still today. You had to go into the office or into the warehouse. You had to go where the tools were, where the machines were, where the electricity was, and where the assembly line was to do your work. And from 1970 until about 2000, a number of emerging technologies were just getting started that impact the way that we work today. In our modern world, we have more than enough computing power and devices, and the internet is more than good enough for us to communicate wherever we are, wherever we want, and in many ways. For a large and growing number of people, we've digitized the workplace. It's no longer necessary to go to where the tools are, or where the widgets are being made, or where the communication is happening from the top down, from person to person, where somebody blows a whistle and everybody goes to lunch. And if we're being honest, it's been like this for a good decade. And then COVID hit. December 12, 2019, a cluster of patients in Wuhan, a province in China, began experiencing shortness of breath and fever. It wasn't until early March that we officially had stay-at-home orders in the United States and across the world. And that's where the experiment began. In the last 2 years, knowledge workers haven't just had to learn how to work remotely, but more importantly, they learned that they could work remotely, that going into the office was a choice instead of a necessity. And for many of the large companies and employers of knowledge workers, both profits and productivity are at record highs. And yet, we find ourselves at an impasse. Senior leaders of these large corporations believe that we are better when we're physically together in the office. Meanwhile, employees and managers don't see the point of being in the office when they can do their work from home or anywhere. In many ways, the push to digitize the workplace is what made it possible to do work from home when the pandemic hit. But it's also what untethered the employee from the office. Employees found out that they could reconnect with their families, that they could save money by not driving to and from work every day. Parents no longer had to take their kids to daycare, and that they had more time on their hands. And as they watched inflation go up, gas prices go up, the cost of food go up, and their raises largely stay the same as last year, they began to ask questions. Existential questions that led to the Great Resignation, or reconsideration, or reflection, whatever you want to call it. At the most fundamental level, people crave purpose. They crave meaning, and they crave opportunity. And so when they start to think about their identity, who it is they are, who it is they have the opportunity to become, and who they can help, they're not finding the answer at the office. And when they look to their leaders for the answers to these questions, they're not getting good answers. If we superimpose the value proposition for return to work with the value proposition of people who have spent 2 years away from work and know that they can do their work remotely, it doesn't line up. As a matter of fact, the value proposition being offered by businesses to their employees is having the opposite effect. Many employers who found that they had more cash on hand than they thought they would during the pandemic and no people in the offices took this opportunity to reconfigure their offices into open working spaces. They created neighborhoods of unassigned desks that had unfamiliar technology and tools than they're used to. And because they were hoteling in these desks, they couldn't sit in the same place the next day, making them feel undervalued, replaceable, and like they don't belong in the office. Without a clear sense of purpose, value, and opportunity being articulated from leadership, people will default to their own personal purpose, meaning, and values. If you walk the halls of a large company pre-pandemic, you would have seen decorations everywhere. People putting their personalities on the walls, people putting their pictures on the walls of their kids, the reason they do all of this. There was a familiarity with the space, with the tools, with the technology, and with the people around them that gave them a sense of security, culture, and meaning. All without having to find the people that they would hang out with, and a place where they can do their work, and the tools that help them to do their work, and also dealing with people in their circles and people who aren't in their circles in the same area, many of them on Zoom calls talking to people who are remote. And while well meaning companies are creating these open office workspaces in the attempt to bring culture and water cooler moments back to the table, what they're unknowingly doing is making people feel alone together. We won't really know the impacts of the COVID pandemic for decades to come. We've never dealt with something like this before, not with the modern day technology and market forces and being hyper connected. As of March 2022, many companies took the leap to force their employees to come back, either full time or for a couple of days a week. And for many employees who are tired and frustrated, it's a welcome callback to work. It brings closure to a very unique and unwanted experiment that lasted 2 years. And for others, it'll be the tipping point that leads them to a new career, to leaving the company or staying with the company and approaching it differently. But the one thing that's true for everyone is there's an opportunity in every crisis. There's a chance to come out of it better than we were before. And this crisis is full of opportunity. It's a chance to reimagine everything that we do and how we do it, but to reimagine it together, not to have it done to us, but to play an active role in creating the future that we want and the ways that we want to work and how we want to do it and where we want to do it. Instead of employees waiting for the employer to tell them what to do, or for employers to find the magic value proposition that brings employees back, we need to come together and experiment together. If we really believe that open seating and hybrid work is the answer, let's test that for 1 quarter. Buy-in from both the company and from the employees. Put skin in the game, try it, and be honest about how it works or how it doesn't work. And then take the learnings, the honest learnings from those experiences, and apply them to the next quarter. Come up with a new experiment. Be willing to try anything so long as we're getting results and the value is there for everyone. Instead of waiting for the next unwanted experiment to find you, become the experiment. Be the innovation. Have a hand in crafting the future of work and finding the opportunities at work that keep you engaged and give you value, purpose, and meaning. Embrace the unknown with the agency and the belief that you can change it. Optimize for the moments that matter, not just at work, but at home as well. And find the balance that helps you to be your best self, no matter what comes your way.